What if the greatest mystery of the ancient world is not how these impossible monuments were built, but why we keep underestimating the people who built them? Because the deeper you look, the more history begins to feel less like truth and more like a missing confession. How is it possible that people we call primitive left behind stonework that still humiliates modern imagination? That question has stayed with me for a long time, and the more I sit with it, the more unsettling it becomes. We are told that ancient builders had little more than copper tools, ropes, muscle, and patience. And yet, all across the world, we find enormous blocks cut with astonishing precision, surfaces so exact they still feel unnatural, and monuments so ambitious that even now they seem to resist common sense. At some point, you have to stop and ask yourself whether the mystery is really in the stones or in the story we have been told about the people who shaped them. Because once you begin looking closely, something starts to feel wrong. Not in the dramatic sense that every ancient site must be the work of aliens or some vanished super civilization. I have never been interested in forcing fantasy where evidence does not support it. What pulls me in is something more powerful than that. It is the moment when the official explanation is technically possible, but emotionally incomplete. The moment when you realize history may not be lying to us, but it may still be leaving out something essential. Something about scale, something about human will, something about what ancient people were actually capable of when they had enough time, enough purpose, and enough belief. Welcome to Hidden Truth Channel. If you are drawn to the mysteries history still cannot fully settle, subscribe now and support the channel. That support genuinely matters, and it helps keep these stories alive. What I want to do in this video is not lecture you from a safe distance like this is just another museum script with the sharp edges filed off. I want to go with you into the places where certainty begins to crack, into the uncomfortable spaces where archaeology, geology, engineering, and human imagination collide. Because the deeper I went into these ancient sites, the more I noticed the same pattern repeating itself. Different continents, different cultures, different eras, and yet the same impossible feeling keeps returning. How did they do this? And maybe even more importantly, why are we so eager to assume they could not? That is the deeper tension at the heart of this journey. We tend to look at the ancient world as if it were populated by people who were somehow mentally smaller than us. Less organized, less capable, less visionary. We assume that because they had no modern machines, they must have lived inside narrow limits of possibility. But what if that instinct is wrong? What if the real flaw is not in the ruins, but in our own imagination? What if the past was not magical, but simply far more formidable than we were taught to believe? Today, I want to take you through 6 astonishing places that have challenged archaeologists, engineers, skeptics, and dreamers for decades. Some rise from sacred hills, some are carved from mountains, some lie under the sea, some disappear beneath the earth. And every one of them pushes against the same fragile boundary between accepted history and unanswered questions. So let's begin with a site that does not just challenge what ancient people could build. It challenges when human history itself may need to be rethought. And if there is one place where that uneasy feeling begins to sharpen into something much bigger, it is Gunung Padang. For generations, people on the island of Java saw it as a sacred hill, a place tied to memory, ritual, and the presence of ancestors. On the surface, it did not look like something that would shake the foundations of history. It looked ancient, yes, important, yes, but not world-breaking. Then researchers began scanning beneath it, and suddenly the ground itself seemed to whisper a different story. Under layers of soil and vegetation, there appeared to be deeper structures, hidden forms beneath what many had assumed was simply a natural rise in the landscape. And when dating claims began circulating, suggesting that some buried layers might reach back nearly 20,000 years, the reaction was immediate and explosive. I remember the first time I really sat with that number. 20,000 years. Not just old, but old enough to disturb the timeline we instinctively carry in our minds. If that interpretation were fully correct, it would place major human construction deep in the Ice Age, long before the civilizations most people are taught to regard as the first true builders of monumental architecture. Before Egypt, before Mesopotamia, before the world we think of as history had even properly begun. It is the kind of claim that does not merely provoke curiosity, it provokes a crisis. Because if a site like that truly belonged to such a remote age, then our understanding of early humanity would not just need adjusting, it would need rewriting. That is exactly why Gunung Padang became a magnet for every kind of explanation. Lost civilization theories rushed in. Atlantis was invoked almost immediately. People imagined a forgotten culture wiped away by catastrophe, leaving behind fragments buried under time and earth. I understand the emotional force of those ideas. When something appears too old, too large, too deliberate, myth enters through the same door that wonder does. But what keeps me returning to Gunung Padang is not the fantasy that it proves some vanished super race once ruled the earth. It is the more difficult, more human possibility. Geologists have pointed out that many of the stone columns at the site are consistent with natural volcanic basalt formations, produced when lava cools and fractures into striking geometric shapes. In other words, nature may have created the raw architecture first. That explanation, for some people, feels like a disappointment, as if the mystery has been taken away. To me, it does the opposite. It transforms the mystery into something subtler and, in a way, more profound. Because then, the story is no longer about an impossible monument appearing out of nowhere. It becomes a story about human beings recognizing power in a landscape and deciding to shape it. And that is where the deeper question begins. If early people found this place and deliberately moved, arranged, and layered these heavy stone columns to reinforce terraces and build a ceremonial site, then what kind of society were they? What kind of shared belief was strong enough to make generations return to the same hill and invest labor into changing it? We are used to imagining hunter-gatherer communities as small, temporary, and loosely organized. But sites like this suggest a different possibility. Not necessarily advanced technology in the modern sense, but advanced intention, advanced cooperation, a capacity for symbolic thinking and collective effort far beyond the cartoon version of prehistory that many people still carry around. Gunung Padang is unsettling because it shifts the argument. It asks us to stop looking only for lost machines and start asking whether we have underestimated ancient minds. And once that question is planted, it becomes very hard to pull back out. And once a place like Gunung Padang forces you to question the limits of ancient human intention, the next place feels even more disturbing, because this time the mystery is not hidden under the earth but carved directly into a mountain. In Maharashtra, India, there stands a monument that I still struggle to describe without sounding exaggerated. The Kailasa temple does not feel built in the way we normally understand building. It feels revealed, as if an entire world had been trapped inside stone and someone somehow knew exactly how to free it. Most architecture begins with addition. You gather material, lay a foundation, raise walls, and slowly push upward against gravity. But Kailasa seems to reject that logic completely. It was carved from a single mass of rock, from the top down. not assembled, not stacked, not corrected in stages if something went wrong. Every courtyard, every pillar, every carved figure, every passage, every sculpted detail was part of one enormous monolithic plan. That is the part that unsettles me most. Not just the beauty of it, but the irreversibility. A structure built from separate blocks allows for mistakes, replacements, compromise. A structure carved downward from living rock offers no such mercy. One major error in judgment, one crack in the wrong place, one broken line in the wrong section, and the damage would be permanent. When I try to imagine the confidence required to begin a project like that, I honestly feel something close to awe mixed with disbelief. It is not just a feat of labor, it is a feat of vision so precise that it borders on the incomprehensible. And then there is the scale. Estimates often suggest that around 200,000 tons of volcanic rock had to be removed to create the temple complex. Even if numbers like these are debated at the edges, the core reality remains staggering. This was not a decorative shrine carved by a few gifted artisans. This was industrial in scale, yet artistic in outcome. That combination is what makes Kailasa so psychologically difficult to process. It is one thing to imagine a massive excavation. It is another to imagine that excavation producing elegance, proportion, symmetry, and intricate symbolic detail rather than rough emptiness. This is why so many people reach for theories of lost technology when they encounter Kailasa. I can almost feel the impulse myself. It seems easier, in some strange way, to believe in vanished machines than to fully accept what organized human effort may have achieved here. You hear claims about unknown cutting tools, advanced engineering knowledge, even technologies supposedly lost to time. And while those theories are dramatic, what makes Kailasa truly powerful to me is that the more grounded explanation is already almost overwhelming. Engineers have pointed out that carving vertically downward changes the entire logistical equation. Workers did not need to haul finished stone blocks upward into place. Gravity assisted the process. Debris could be broken away and removed downward. With careful planning, iron tools, wedges, relentless manpower, and generations of accumulated skill, what first appears impossible begins to enter the realm of the brutally achievable. But I think that phrase matters, brutally achievable, because that is where the deeper truth may lie. Kailasa does not necessarily prove the existence of forgotten machines. It may prove something far more uncomfortable for modern people to accept, that ancient societies, when driven by belief, hierarchy, discipline, and time, could concentrate human effort at a level we can barely imagine anymore. And to me, that realization is not less mysterious than fantasy. It is more. And after standing before a monument carved out of a mountain by human hands, it feels almost surreal to move to a place where the central question changes from how people built it to whether people built it at all. Near the western edge of Japan, off the coast of Yonaguni Island, lies one of the most haunting formations I have ever come across in ancient mystery research. It was not uncovered by archaeologists with brushes and notebooks. It was noticed beneath the sea by a diver in the 1980s, someone who had gone into the water for an entirely different reason and instead found himself staring at something that looked less like geology and more like the ruins of intention. The first images have a strange effect on the mind. You see broad terraces, sharp angles, long flat surfaces, and step-like drops that seem to descend with almost architectural rhythm. It does not merely look unusual, it looks deliberate. That first impression is exactly what makes Yonaguni so powerful. Some places become mysterious only after experts explain why they matter. Yonaguni does the opposite. Before you know anything about the debate, It already makes you feel as though you are looking at the remains of a drowned world. And once that feeling takes hold, the imagination starts moving very quickly. If this formation was above water at the end of the last ice age, then its origins could reach back to a time long before the civilizations we usually place at the beginning of monumental history. That possibility alone is enough to make people whisper words like lost continent, vanished culture, Pacific Atlantis. I understand that reaction because Yonaguni touches something deep in the human mind. We are strangely vulnerable to the idea that the ocean is hiding chapters of history we were never meant to recover. Water preserves mystery in a way land rarely does. Once something sinks beneath the sea, it becomes both more distant and more seductive. We start projecting stories onto it because it exists in a space where evidence is difficult, access is limited, and certainty feels perpetually out of reach. And yet this is also where restraint matters. Geologists have argued that the structure can be explained, at least largely, by natural processes. The rock in that region tends to fracture along straight planes. Tectonic pressure, erosion, and strong currents can create surfaces and edges that look startlingly artificial. In that view, Yonaguni is not a lost city at all, but a dramatic natural formation shaped by the logic of stone, water, and time. That explanation is not absurd. In fact, it is strong. But what makes the site linger in my mind is that even after hearing the geology, the place does not lose its tension. Because there may be a middle ground here, and I think that middle ground is where many ancient mysteries become most interesting. Nature may have formed the foundation, but human beings may have encountered it when sea levels were lower and recognized something meaningful in it. They may have cut into it, altered paths, smoothed surfaces, or used it as a ceremonial or practical space. Not a fully built city in the fantasy sense, but not entirely untouched either. That possibility feels deeply human to me. We have always taken what the world gives us and reshaped it with belief, need, and imagination, and maybe that is why Yonaguni refuses to disappear from memory. It does not offer a clean answer. It offers a threshold, a place where nature and human intention may have met so closely that even now, looking back through the water, we cannot completely separate one from the other. And if Yonaguni leaves us staring into the uncertainty of what may lie beneath the sea, the next place forces us into a very different kind of mystery, one buried not under water, but under the weight of human fear. In central Turkey, in the region of Cappadocia, a man was reportedly doing something ordinary in 1963, renovating his home, when he broke through a wall and discovered an opening that should not have been there. Behind it was not a forgotten storage room or a shallow cavity in the rock, but the entrance to something vast, something hidden so completely that generations had lived above it without truly knowing what slept below. That place was Derinkuyu, one of the largest underground cities ever discovered, and I have to admit, few sites affect me the way this one does. Not because it is the most beautiful, but because it feels the most intimate. This is not architecture built to dominate a skyline or impress a king from a distance. This is architecture built by people who were trying to survive. The scale is what first unsettles you. Derinkuyu descends through multiple levels, stretching deep below the surface, with chambers for storage, living quarters, livestock, workshops, schools, places of worship, and a ventilation system so effective that fresh air could reach astonishing depths. It is one thing to hear that people once hid underground. It is another to realize that an entire community, possibly thousands of people, could move below the earth and continue functioning there. The deeper you imagine it, the more claustrophobic it becomes. Narrow corridors, stone doors that could seal passageways from within, a world without sunlight, designed not for comfort, but for endurance. You begin to feel that this was less a city in the normal sense than a deliberate answer to danger, and that is where the mystery changes shape. With a site like Derinkuyu, the most important question is not simply how it was carved. It is what kind of historical pressure could make such a place necessary. Of course, as with nearly every ancient anomaly, dramatic theories have flourished around it. Some have imagined it as a bunker against a forgotten global catastrophe, a shelter from an event so devastating that humanity was forced underground. Others have woven it into stories about ancient advanced knowledge, as if only some lost and superior intelligence could have designed such an efficient refuge beneath the earth. I understand why people reach for those ideas. There is something eerie about a hidden city with sealed entrances and deep breathing shafts. It awakens a part of the mind that wants to turn survival into apocalypse. But the grounded explanation is already powerful enough. These lands were exposed for centuries to invasion, warfare, instability, and repeated threats from the outside world. The volcanic tuff beneath Cappadocia is soft enough to carve when first exposed, then hardens over time, making it ideal for defensive underground spaces. In other words, Derinkuyu may not be evidence of a forgotten super-civilization. It may be evidence of something more human and, in a way, more haunting. People who understood that the world above them could become unlivable at any moment and who responded not with surrender, but with engineering. That is what stays with me. Derinkuyu is a monument to fear, yes, but also to resilience. It reminds us that ancient intelligence was not only capable of building upward in triumph, it was also capable of building downward in silence, adapting to danger with patience, discipline, and a desperate determination to keep life going in the dark. When I step back and look at all of these places together, what strikes me most is not the fantasy that ancient people must have had supernatural help. It is something both simpler and more profound than that. Again and again, these sites confront us with the same uncomfortable truth. Human beings in the distant past may have possessed far more discipline, endurance, coordination, and long-range vision than we often give them credit for. Whether we are looking at sacred landscapes shaped over generations, entire monuments carved from living rock, mysterious formations beneath the sea, or entire cities hidden underground for survival, the deeper pattern remains the same. These were not the works of foolish or primitive minds. They were the works of people responding to the world around them with extraordinary seriousness. Some built to honor belief, some built to survive war, some built to project power, some may still resist full explanation, but all of them remind us that history is not just a record of what people made. It is a record of what people were willing to commit themselves to, sometimes for decades, sometimes for generations, in service of something greater than personal comfort. And maybe that is the lesson that matters most today. We live in an age of speed, distraction, and short attention spans. We want quick answers, instant results, and easy explanations. But the ancient world keeps whispering a very different message. The greatest things human beings create rarely come from convenience. They come from patience, shared purpose, persistence, and the willingness to keep building even when the final result may not be seen in one lifetime. The deeper lesson for us is this: do not underestimate what a human life can become when it is guided by meaning instead of impulse. In your own life, that may mean committing to a skill, a calling, a family, a belief, or a long-term goal with more patience than the modern world encourages. It may mean building something slowly, faithfully, and with care, even when progress feels invisible, because the people who shaped these mysteries were not powerful because they had shortcuts. They were powerful because they had conviction. So here is a simple question for you. Which site in this video impressed you the most and why? Please share your answer in the comments so everyone can read different perspectives and join the conversation. And if you enjoy exploring mysteries like this, subscribe to Hidden Truth Channel and support the channel so we can keep bringing you more powerful stories in the videos ahead.